Hi guys, it's me, Neal Brennan. It's the Blocks Podcast. My guest today is a actor, writer. Are you officially a comedian, or you're just more in the comedy space?
No, yeah, I don't know.
He exists in the comedy space, the liminal comedy space. He was the star of Fresh Off the Boat. He was the star of Always Be My Maybe with the great Ali Wong. What are your other big ones?
WandaVision.
You're on WandaVision on Disney.
Directed a movie, Shortcomings. I don't know if that was a big one, but it was big to me.
Yeah. It took a lot of time, didn't it? Randall Park, ladies and gentlemen. Here he is.
Hey.
It's great to, we've met once that I know of, if not twice.
Yeah, I definitely remember one.
You were
Always Be My Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought I met you with Moshe.
Wait, we met on the street.
Yeah,
with Moshe. That's right.
Yes.
Both times.
And then we met you when you were doing Always Be My Maybe.
Yes. And then I don't remember if I was with Moshe or you were with Moshe, but yeah, I met you. I met you then. Yeah.
One of the many things I like about you is you were friends with Ali.
Yes.
And you got her a job writing for Fresh Off the Boat.
I mean, I helped.
Yeah,
the
but
process.
Like you recommended her.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't really a writer, or wasn't even that. She was interested in learning about writing.
Yeah.
And you helped her whatever you did.
Yeah.
And then she exploded. And she was able to be like, hey, there's something biblical about it. And then she was like, we should do a movie together. And it was great. And Always Be My Maybe.
Oh, thank you. And you helped with that. Yeah, you came.
I went to screen of Always Be My Maybe, and the director, Nanochka, was like, isn't Neal a hater? She didn't. She was upset. She was like, I don't know if I want Neal there. Isn't he a hater? I've never met her. And
where did she get that? I guess
I don't. Maybe I give off hater vibes. But yeah, so it was my pleasure.
And I remember your thoughts on it were very helpful and great, and I was like, oh man.
You know what's funny in LA? You have to compliment people's criticisms.
Yeah.
People criticize you. You have to be like, thank you for the greatness of your insult.
But I felt like, sometimes you get criticism and it's more about the person criticizing than about the actual thing that needs some critiquing, and I felt like from you it was.
I don't even remember what I said. I don't
either, but I remember.
Such an old, I did Half Baked 27 years ago, so I've been around. I've been just thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, I got that sense. Oh, this is really valuable.
I mean, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. And I'm interested in you in that you seem like a sensitive guy.
Yeah.
And you entered into a hostile industry as a member of a marginal race in a hostile industry.
Yeah.
And by marginal, I mean population-wise.
Yeah.
Not a ton of Asians in North America, which you think there are if you're in certain cities.
Sure.
But the numbers are like 4%, 5%.
Yeah.
But you went to UCLA for performing. You were always doing stuff.
Yeah.
Just like sort of community, like with an Asian, like meaning like you're doing it not just for you, it seems like.
Well, I mean, I started out in co-founding a theater company at UCLA. That theater company was an Asian-American theater company. Ali eventually joined that company. That's how I knew Ali. But after that, we graduated. We kept putting on plays and writing original material, and that was kind of my, I wouldn't say an introduction into the business, because we were so outside of the business, even though we were in LA. But it definitely got me thinking that this might be something that I could do.
When you thought of it, obviously your thought process is probably like yourself first. Yeah. And then as a white person, I never have to think about doing it for all white people.
Yeah.
It's you do have to do it if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Latino, like you do have to consider like all of us and this as a movement, which seems like twice as difficult.
Yeah, and
or twice as big a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, for me, I think it wasn't something that it was a part of me. So it kind of just felt natural to approach it that way. But I still was very much just like thinking of myself and trying to achieve in this business and trying to get somewhere,
What were your parents like?
They were working middle class. My mom worked at UCLA. She worked as an accountant for the student store at UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah, and my dad was he was basically a small business owner. He had a 1-hour photo store for many years, and like a tiny shop on Main Street in Santa Monica, and he. And then he worked at a souvenir shop on Hollywood Boulevard for many years. Yeah. And then he passed away not too long ago.
Sorry to hear that. Were they immigrants?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ronnie Chang did a joke. I saw him in his Netflix.
Yeah, I heard you just in Hawaii. Yeah.
So he had a Netflix and he had a joke about Asian immigrants being cheap. And he's like, my mom's never left Singapore. She's cheap as fuck. What do you find is the immigrant experience? Well, I guess it's like, how much of this is because it's Asians in America, or is it just an immigrant experience, or is it an Asian experience? You know what I mean? Like, how do you decouple what's what, and how does it influence your life? And I also think there's something to be said for like your parents' geography and how that influences your spirit. Just like I just had an Irish comedian, Tommy Tiernan, here. Yeah. We're just talking about like being Irish and what the history of Ireland and what it does to you.
Growing up, I didn't think about it at all. Yeah. It wasn't even a thought. I was, I had, growing up in an immigrant house, it was like, my parents.
Where did your parents immigrate from?
From Korea.
Okay.
And they came in the late 60s, early 70s. And for me, it was just like my parents are cheap. I didn't really think about why they were. We just seemed to never have enough money for anything that I'd want.
I also think like I'm cheap. Like
and to me, and that wasn't. I grew up in a really diverse neighborhood, and all my friends were like every race. It was almost like idyllic in certain ways, but all of our parents were cheap.
Yeah,
so it wasn't really a thought. It wasn't until I got to UCLA where I found myself immersed in this Asian-American community, and I would see the connections and the shared experiences and learn about the history, and I'd get a deeper insight into my parents, because I didn't really, to me, they were just my parents,
How would you describe in broad strokes, like the Korean character as expressed through your parents? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it stoic? Is it like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my dad was very, I would say you could consider him stoic. I mean, he wasn't like a talker, he wasn't
so much of this because it's like generationally they weren't like,
he didn't share his feelings.
That just started like when this podcast started. No, you know what I mean? Like,
and like I said, he just passed away a couple months ago.
How old was he?
He was 84. And he had lung cancer, and we were going through his stuff afterwards, and he owned nothing. He had no possessions.
Would you respect it, or is it just odd?
I respect it. Now, where I'm at now. If I was a kid, I'd be like,
what do you?
Why don't you have just anything? But now I totally respect it. I mean, he was such a minimalist, and I don't think it was because he made the choice to be a minimalist. It was because he struggled, and his way of dealing with that struggle was to not want, and so we never got a sense that he wanted more. It was just this very kind of Zen approach to life, and going through his stuff after his death, it became even clearer. Like he he really valued the important things that we all should value, you know.
Family.
Like, yeah.
Our phones.
Yeah, our phones.
Yeah, the
internet porn. You know, all that
high
stuff.
Upload speeds. Yeah. So and you probably thought it was like square and corny until you're 30, and you're like, you guys got.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
What
was your mom like?
My mom was, she was more, I guess, assimilated than my dad. In the sense that she, she had coworkers, and she would hang out with those coworkers sometimes, and she
friends. She had a social life.
Yeah. I mean, my dad had friends, but he rarely saw them, you know. Whereas my mom had, she'd go on trips without my dad because my dad would, not want to go, So my mom would just go off on her own and
cheat on him.
On him. Yeah.
Have to. It's a girls' trip.
So she was more, I would say, in a lot of ways, the face of our family, like the public face of our family, Like, yeah. Whereas my dad was a diplomat. Yeah, she was the diplomat. My dad was just the workhorse, you know, and that was the dynamic.
Who do you find yourself more similar to?
I think my dad. Yeah. I'm not like a minimalist like him because I have money, So like, I like things.
Yeah.
But I also have a real kind of conscious acknowledgement and belief that these things mean nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to get them.
I need to get them. Yeah, just so I can look good.
What are you buying? What's the dumbest thing you've ever bought?
I mean, I just bought like a nice car.
Got it.
And this is like a few months back.
Yeah.
And I've never had like a real nice car.
What'd you get?
I got a BMW. I mean, it's not even to me. That's like, I can't believe I bought a BMW.
Yeah,
it was such a big deal.
What were you driving before?
Just a RAV4.
Okay,
which is a great car.
No. Take nothing away.
Yeah.
From the whole Toyota family.
Incredible car.
They really do great stuff.
Very reliable.
Of course.
Yeah.
Resale, pretty good.
Oh my gosh, I got a great resale value on that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Your dad's smiling.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first block is anxiety.
Yeah.
Always?
Not to a point where it really affected my day-to-day until the pandemic. Yeah, that's when I started, it really started to affect my day-to-day.
Well, that seems more like your mom. If I may, do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, it does. It does.
Meaning, like, if you wanted to socialize more, or what do you think it was?
No, it was. I think it was just existential dread. And it was during.
One of the best dreads there is.
Oh gosh, it was in October 2020. Pandemic, election. Everything was happening. I was on social media at the time. I've since left social media.
They're correct.
Yeah. And I was just immersed in my phone. I was very glued to the election. And one night I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe. And I not only that, but I had to keep moving my body for some reason. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't lay down. I had to keep moving. And so I was just pacing around the house. My wife was like, "What's going on?" I was like, I don't know. It
felt bad.
It felt bad.
Yeah.
It lasted all night.
Could you sleep?
No, I didn't sleep. And it pretty much went on for the next 2 weeks. Every night, throughout the day, continuous, and I didn't eat that whole 2 weeks. I didn't sleep that whole. I felt like I was losing my mind. And I'd call my doctors. I'd try to get help. My doctors were like, "It's a panic attack." I was like, "This is not a panic attack.
This is like so much more important than that."
Yeah, this is like continuous.
Yeah.
And then one morning, I just blacked out. Because I was dehydrated. I wasn't sleeping.
Were you standing or sitting?
I was standing. Just fell into a shelf in our house, and this metal shelf. I bent the metal shelf, came out of blacked out. There's blood all over me.
Who was there?
No one was there.
Okay.
No one was there. Yeah.
So did somebody find you, or you came to?
I came to. Called my wife. Who?
How long do you think you were out for?
I don't even know. I don't know. I think I was out for like maybe like half a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so the blood wasn't like caked and dried.
No, it was fresh.
Okay, great.
It was fresh. Yeah,
great.
Yeah. And I rushed to the hospital, still feeling like, and I remember talking to the doctor. I could barely talk because I was still in the middle of a panic attack. They didn't know what to do. Called up every doctor I knew. Called up Dr. Ken Jeong.
Maybe the worst doctor you could call.
and he's such a great friend. He helped me so much. He just kind of got me in connection with the right people.
Yeah.
And immediately, I started working with this team and it had, I had developed some sort of panic disorder during that time, and got on the right medication, started seeing a cognitive behavioral therapist, and I would say it took me like half a year to kind of get back to feeling normal after that.
And did you stop taking meds?
No.
You still take them?
Yeah.
And do you mind taking them?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's like people are like, "What are you on med?" You don't notice.
Yeah. I don't even.
What's the downside? I don't. Yeah. What's happening?
But yeah, so that really was.
How do you?
I never experienced anything like that before.
How do you undo existential dread?
For me, it was make my life small. Make everything small. Just the people around me, my friends. Just really focus on my family and just be in the moment, all those things, meditate twice a day, exercise a lot more.
Yep.
Be open and honest about things. Don't hide, don't keep things to myself. Don't feel a sense of stigma for any of this. This is just, it happens and it's human,
Ear infection.
Yeah.
You're not gross for going in the ocean. It's like,
Yeah.
So that just made it more like kind of taking it in stride, or just accepting it and going like, this is where I am. I'm not going to judge myself for.
Yeah. But I think, I've always felt for myself like naturally, and I wonder if this is for everybody. I think we were all meant to keep things small, like that's our natural kind of, comfort state.
Like the amount of people that study of like, you're only up until 100 years ago, you would only know so many people.
Yeah.
That live near. You couldn't travel far.
Yeah, exactly.
So you would just like know the village. And
and the village
we're
helps
built
you.
for that.
Yeah, and we help each other. It's kind of, and it being in our business, it gets complicated.
Because the villagers are so toxic.
Yeah, so for me, it didn't feel, because I've always felt like that was my natural comfort zone. It felt even more right to kind of just pare things down, stop things like social media.
Do you look at it as your body going like, yo, this is fucked up, I can't do this anymore?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. It was very physical. I mean, when you're sick, you do something about it, you know? And that's what it was.
Has it affected I'm assuming it affected your family life in a positive way.
Yeah.
Has it affected the professional stuff in any kind of way?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you think it's been?
I think it's been better for me, I mean, it almost
keeping it in proportion, or because it's not like you're not ambitious, right? Or is it more reasonable ambition?
It's a very conscious, I feel like in our business and probably in life in general for everybody, it's like you want to have gratitude for what you have,
mm-hmm.
but you also want to be hungry, right? And like it almost like,
good luck with the balance.
Yeah, how can you be both, right? Yeah. So it's a very conscious, like, when I start feeling like I'm starving, remember what, I've trained my mind to kind of click into, okay, remember all these great things you have, all these dreams that you had that you've accomplished, all these things, and there's more, but don't forget this, and whenever I get too comfortable, it's like, oh wait, remember, there's things to do, there's work to do, and it's that constant, like, just stay in the middle, as much as possible. Yeah.
And were you not doing that before? Were you were you hungrier?
I think,
or more mono?
I think around the time when those panic attacks kicked in, I mean, definitely like career was a part of that, and I think I was kind of stressed out about my career at that time. I don't remember why exactly, but that's always like in the mix.
It's what's great about life is you get existential dread about things that you eventually forget. I don't know what I was upset about, but it was so important that a couple years later, I have no idea what it was. So embarrassing.
Yeah, totally.
You have wanting to be liked here as a block.
Yeah. This desire to be.
Is that from early? Is that early memory? Wanted to be liked?
Yeah, very much so, I think. But even more so as I got older, especially in this business, fear of offending people, fear of any kind of uncomfortable kind of dynamic, just wanting everything to be like.
What was the interview?
Please remember, Kim Jong-un is a master manipulator.
I have a gift for you.
Oh, this dog is killing me with cuteness.
He's a crazy cute.
Talk about not offending people.
That didn't affect me so much.
I believe that. I could see it as. It must have felt. If you don't remember, they made a movie where he played. I believe you played Kim Jong-un, right? Yeah. Then James Franco went to murder him, and then who didn't like is Kim Jong-un. And no one saw it coming. Hacked Sony. They end up not releasing the movie very much, et cetera, et cetera. But I would assume, I remember talking to Evan Goldberg, one of the writers, about it, and he was like, I think it was just weird.
I mean, there was like, for me, there was like a little bit of heartache, especially, once everything kind of blew up, and in the sense that in my head, I had built it up so much.
This was kind of going to be your shot?
Kind of, because it was
Have you done Fresh Off the Boat yet?
No.
Oh, okay. So then,
Well, we shot. They kind of happened simultaneously, but we shot the interview, and then I booked Fresh Off the Boat. And by the end of the shooting the first season, before the show even came out, the interview came out, didn't come out. I didn't think Fresh Off the Boat would do anything. I thought we were going to shoot a season that was going to not
go on Tubi.
I really believe that, because at the time there were no Asian families on TV. I was like, this country's not going to tune in.
How many are there now?
I don't know, not many. I have probably 2 shows maybe. But in my head, I had heard so much feedback, from Seth and Evan, and from my reps were getting feedback from the studio. They're just like, "Oh my God, they're like, this is going to be big for you," And I like the movie. I
never saw it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to get murdered. I hope you understand.
That's right. No, I understand. So when all of it kind of fell apart, it was a bit of a heartache for me, But as far as the controversy of it all, it wasn't like I was getting death threats or
Okay, good.
Like
so
that.
you didn't. But did you feel like thwarted? Did you feel like some fatalistic, like, why can't I? This was my shot.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Do you felt a little sorry for yourself or some version of that?
Yeah, for sure.
How long did that last? Till Fresh Off the Boat came out?
Yeah, probably a few months.
Like, they fucked me, stupid Kim Jong-un. Why this is Asian hate, this is inter-Asian hate. Have a sense of humor.
All that.
People want to kill you. Deal with it. Okay, but my thing with something like wanting to be liked.
Yeah.
What's the downside for you? Because you are very likable. Right, it's working.
I mean,
you're a very easy person to be around.
Yeah.
What's the downside?
I don't know.
Well, do you feel like you're abandoning yourself sometimes, like by being affable or being That would be my worry.
No, I don't. I don't. I mean, I feel like I am who I am, and I don't really like. I'm old now, or older, so I don't. I think maybe those questions were more.
Is it like do you ever find yourself like, I wish I could do X, but I'm not going to remain employable, likable?
No, nothing like that. I think it's. Here's an example. It's like, I don't like going to like parties, especially like industry parties. Mm-hmm. And one of the big fears for me, and this is like so trivial, but for me, it's like a thing. I forget people's names.
Dude, and I don't know if Allie told you, anytime I direct something, everyone wears name tags.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember, I haven't met most of them, and I don't understand how I'm supposed to remember 55 names.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
Yeah, but for me, it's it fills me with anxiety to come into a party where it is someone I met. Maybe it's someone I even had dinner with,
hooked up with. I'm kidding.
Maybe. and the dread of having, and clearly them knowing in my head that I don't remember their name.
Yeah.
And nothing ever comes of it, but I just don't want to offend people like that and have them hate me.
Stay home and have a panic attack. Why not?
So it's like things like that where it's like I shouldn't care.
Yeah.
Because I think people are understanding and ultimately, and they don't care. I don't think. Some people do.
Were your parents, what was the discipline like growing up?
My mom was the disciplinarian in a lot of ways in terms of like physical discipline, you know?
Which was a thing they used to do.
Yeah. And my dad was, when he'd yell, it was like the scariest thing, but he never like hit us or anything like that. Yeah. But that was the dynamic.
So it doesn't seem like it's born out of some like, don't hit, like you just want to be a decent person. And I would also think, when did you start having kids?
Later 30s.
So you had a pretty good living set up by the time you started having kids?
We were doing okay. Yeah.
But that's got to be, once it's tied to supporting your family, all this stuff, it's like, I understand how people become like company men or women.
Yeah.
You've got dependence.
But I bristle at that idea of being a company man, but ultimately that is kind of it. You just want, you want everything to be kind of, nice and
you also want to be able to make a living to support your family. I don't think I get you want to be likable. It's important. Especially if you need to keep working for money.
But for me, again, it's not like a very conscious thing.
No, of course not.
But the idea of someone hating me, it's just like, I don't feel comfortable with that. And I know people hate me. Like
you think people hate you?
I mean, you can't do what we do and not have people, strangers,
right?
Just like hate you for some reason. Right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's a numbers thing,
you're right. Like 25% of people are just going to reject you out of hand.
Yeah. Just because you have a face that they don't like or whatever reason,
Yeah, you have a very pleasant face. That's what's so upsetting about the whole thing.
Appreciate that.
A household full of holiday guests is a beautiful thing until you realize they're all endlessly wiping in your bathroom. Give your toilet a fighting chance by installing a Tushy bidet. Here's the personal endorsement section, guys. Gonna be easy. I love bidets. This is my third Tushy. Will, go ahead and show them video of me installing it.
I wasn't rolling, but I just unscrewed these. We got the directions here. Oh, that's pretty simple. Little disinfecties. Really humanizing, isn't this? Guys, good news. I don't need this. Can I put this baby back on? You know I'm actually doing this because I wouldn't be actually doing this if I wasn't actually doing this. You know what I mean? All right, now I gotta turn the water back on. All right, let's see how this is. Hello. I just made myself a tushy.
I forgot how easy it is. It took like 5 minutes tops. It's super simple to use. I use it every day. I used it 40 minutes ago, guys. Right? I think the results speak for themselves. Look at this look on my face. Give the gift of practical luxury that benefits everyone in your household. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off their first bidet order when you use code NEAL at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at HelloTushy.com. Promo code Neal, and don't forget to give us a shout out while you're there and let them know we sent you. Go to HelloTushy.com for the best gift this holiday season. I promise you, I'm telling you the truth. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, guys, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. They scour the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable things. Somehow, they know exactly what the perfect gift is for every single person you know, and then they put it on their catalog and you can order it. You know, I try not to be a hypocrite, so I try not to endorse things I don't use. But I went on here, and this is I have a little boy in my life. Don't get the wrong idea, it's my girl's kid. And so I got him a viewfinder, like from yesteryear. Remember these viewfinder things where you put it in, you do, but you can load, the new wrinkle is you load in your own photos. So, and then they make them sort of dimensional, like those from olden days. I thought it was cute. That's like the tip of the iceberg. I could have gotten 50 different things. That just seemed like the best one. And he's going to love it. He's not going to know it's from yesteryear, but it's a cool thing anyway. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses all over the world. Many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches, so shop now before they sell out this holiday season. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/blocks. That's uncommongoods.com/BLOCKS for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. All right, here's one. Fear of success.
Yeah, I think that's that I definitely deal with.
What is that? Guilt? Is it why me? Is it do you think it's part of being Asian in a minority Asian country? Like, what do you think?
Well, I should clarify. For me, it's not necessarily fear of success, but it's fear of overblown success. Like real, like big stardom.
Like The Rock or something.
Yeah, or even like I feel like I'm at a very
Is Allie on the cusp of too famous to you?
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's. Allie is.
She's
so.
I can't. If she's changed, it's 3%.
She's so grounded.
Yeah.
She's so grounded, and she's able to exist in that.
Yeah.
That realm. I mean, for me, it's like I don't know if I could exist in that realm without losing myself.
I think if a woman getting famous, I think like the temptations are, and also if she has kids and it's like I just think what's she gonna do with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like she's gonna be on a boat with a bunch of. It's like
I mean, ultimately the life isn't that much different, you know. But
she'd rather be a good mom than anything.
Yeah. So like, and I know I'd be the same. Like, I'd want to be a good mom, But I would. I think it goes back to also the wanting to be liked. It's just so much more noise.
Oh yeah,
so
it's also
more,
like resentable.
Yeah,
she's lucky in that. If someone resented Allie, I'd be like, something's wrong with you.
Yeah,
there are people that are successful that if somebody resented them, I'd be like, I can see why you'd resent that.
Yeah, but she also, like, the amazing thing about her, and that I really respect and am inspired by is she really knows herself.
Yeah.
So like she really like saying no isn't an issue for her.
No.
You know, for me, there's always like a little internal battle before I can say no. You know, like, do you really want to say no?
Guilty?
Do you really?
The social, yeah.
Yeah.
Allie loves saying no.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
and
her favorite
that's
word.
like a superpower to me. you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Well, she weirdly to your dad's thing, Allie doesn't seem to want. She knew what she wanted before. It's like I saw her after the Emmys, and I was like, "What are you gonna do with?" And she was like, "I don't want to do anything." She's literally like, "I just want to do stand up."
Yeah, yeah,
like, great,
yeah, totally.
You're great at it. People love watching you do it. You don't have to inconvenience yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas within myself, I feel like whenever I get something, I'm like, I should now.
Totally.
It's like I owe it to success. You know what I mean? Like, I owe it to David Lee Roth to do something extravagant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's where racism is on your side.
Totally.
Because, you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
You're not racially ambiguous enough for that level, for the rock level.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I always say, like, you know, to friends, it's like, it's great. It's actually a blessing to be able to walk around and have a lot of people just think, oh, this is just another Asian guy, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
You know?
yes, and sure. Yeah. And like you get, to paraphrase Allie, you get good tables on Sawtell.
Yeah.
And you get good ramen like you get, you're close enough.
It's great. Then you walk outside, put on a hat, and it's like, oh, this is I don't know who that is. That's
get out of the way.
Yeah.
Where are you with racism? Just out of curiosity.
Where am I with racism?
Yeah. How do you feel about it? What's been your arc with racism?
My arc was didn't really think too much about it growing up. Again, very diverse.
Because you grew up, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we would talk about it and joke about it and, make fun of each other's races and stuff like that. But it was all just friendly, just friends,
Yeah.
And then got to college, UCLA, found, this kind of community. Learned a lot about Asian-American history, other histories, and got a lot more, I guess, angry, and driven, motivated by, wanting to do my part.
Avenge?
Maybe a little bit of that.
Right, but I think that's natural.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
Yeah. And then going into...
Watch me act.
Yeah. And then going into this industry, still carrying that a little bit and wanting to, be a part of some kind of change, but then also wanting to just work.
Yeah.
And
wanting it to be irrelevant.
And finding that often butting heads, and also learning, especially pursuing something like this is being overly conscious of racism. Sometimes it's an anchor, it kind of holds you down, if you're always thinking about that, you want to be free and you want to be creative and you want to, and all that stuff was a part of me, so that there was always going to be a little bit of an anger and a little bit of a wanting to help change things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not holding on to it so much that it becomes everything. Yeah.
And taking jobs based on representation. How to look and
Yeah. And really kind of more just like kind of being in tune to myself and what's right and wrong to me, as opposed to what might be wrong or right to the community or to, and feeling like, oh, well, my internal barometer is, the community plays a part in that, but then also all these other life experiences play a part in that, and just kind of navigating things through that experience,
There is, the older I get, the more I'm like, I don't know. I understand it. I understand like they are different. Even the history of Asia is smaller colonialism. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think people are just kind of greedy and are looking for any reason to justify their own selfishness.
Yeah.
And so it becomes like, even I just am like, I don't know how if a country's 50, I don't know what the number is, 55% white or whatever, and then 15% black and 15%, like, I don't know how this is the most successful version of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, America, as racist as America is, we're doing better than everyone.
Yeah.
And kind of the only country that's even trying sees it as a problem.
Yeah.
You know
Totally.
what I mean? Like,
totally.
we should try to not do this.
Yes.
Like, are we going to put all of our efforts to it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But we're like, understand
and we're
that,
conscious of it.
Yes.
You know, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I think when I first started in the industry, the industry wasn't even conscious of it, really. I mean, a little bit, but
there was like
hardly.
the scene and Do the Right Thing.
Chip, I got good price for you. Now catch it. How I'm doing?
Of what was Steve Park? What's his name?
Oh, yeah.
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
And then he was on In Living Color a little bit.
That's right.
Knockout poison. You see, I told you, you get good night's sleep one way or another with a ninja security system.
But we used to do awful Asian shows about like
The Asian delegation chooses the RZA, the Jizza, the Bob, Inspector Deck, Ghostface Killer, the Wu-Tang Clan.
it was just
Totally.
like, and it was silly. We thought it was silly, and it was spiritually silly.
Yeah, and a lot of us, I wasn't doing it at that time, but we were auditioning for it because we wanted to work. You know, and then later we became more critical, which is good.
Yeah,
and I think things have changed, and we've made so much progress.
Yeah,
and I'm really grateful for that progress.
We finished. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. We solved it.
Yeah, no, but in some ways, the fact that we're even approaching it, I think, is admirable as a country. But of course, no one who's in the marginalized group can ever say that.
Yeah.
Because then they're a bitch ass sellout.
Well,
if you go like, this is pretty. I mean, again, it's not great, but it's better than every other country.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I told you, like my upbringing was so diverse and so idyllic in a way, and I think that's my natural state, is to have friends of all different. Here's another thing: it's fun to make fun of other people's races. Totally.
It's funny and fun.
Yeah, and
it doesn't mean I don't want you to vote.
Yeah,
it just means I noticed that you do something differently, and I'm gonna shit on it now.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's where I want to be.
Yeah,
and it goes back to keeping things small and keeping things kind of very village oriented. And so when I do get kind of bogged down over, again, I always have to check myself, when I get bogged down over the industry's racism. It's like, okay, but let's.
Do you ever get to market? Do you ever get like, well, we're only 5% of the population. How much catering is smart to do to one racial group?
Wait, what do you mean?
Meaning, if I'm a studio, right, and if it's like you go, well, why can't we make more Crazy Rich Asians and Shang-Chi and all the stuff? If I'm a studio, I personally can understand their aversion to, because they don't even want white people. They want people in superhero uniforms.
Yeah.
Let's take fucking white people out. And then if they do make white movies, it's because it's a country with. So I'm like, and then they've realized like, oh no, there's a shitload of people in Asia.
Yeah.
So it's all these marketing decisions, and I understand.
I mean, ultimately it's a business. This whole thing is a business, and I'm very conscious of that. And if squirrels could buy movie tickets, most movies would be about squirrels. Yeah, exactly.
That's the bottom line. So it's like the more people in Asia that get Netflix subscriptions.
Yeah, and if you have a show with, say, an Asian American family, and if every Asian person in America is watching it, it would probably be a hit. But not even every Asian person in America is watching it. People in Asia probably aren't watching it, so that show doesn't make it. And that show ends. And you could say, oh, this industry's racist, but you kind of also
it's like they tried
to
it.
Watch it.
Yeah, they tried it. They put it out,
and that's where you kind of want to be, right? You want to be able to fail and be able to make another thing, and not have that one failure be, okay, these people don't work on screen,
Well, what's funny is, that pressure must be a pain. That pressure of like, you have to select things with an upside so that, because if you fail and
it's that and I think we've been kind of trained to think like that, like everything that comes out, if it doesn't connect, it's kind of like, oh, what's this going to mean for the community, and that's real, but you kind
of have to ignore it.
You can't think of that, and you can't make your moves with that in mind, because your moves have to come from a pure place, like not just like, oh, we're going to make an Asian American hit so that we could keep making stuff, then it's just K-pop. Which is great and has its place, but
it's not like it's not artistically enriching for the most. I mean, again, if you're young, I'm sure. Fear of dead animals. I like this.
Yeah, that's something I've had for a long time.
How bad? That's the first time we've had that as a block. What is that? Exactly which ones and how afraid of them are you? And when did it begin?
Any dead animal that is not like an insect.
Do you cook?
Yes, I do.
How do you deal with carcasses?
If there's not a face on it, I'm fine.
Okay.
If there's a face on it, it brings up this intense and I could feel this intense like kind of fear, and then it settles, and I could
fear. It's a fear. It's a small
fear.
It's a 10, 15 second.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, and I have this instinct to run away. Sometimes I will literally run away in the opposite direction.
If there's a dead animal on the side of the road.
Yeah. If there's a bird.
What if you're in a car?
It'll be the same but less. Okay. But I'll probably like swerve more than I need to. When I was in middle school,
have you seen Pet Sematary? Like, is there a reanimation
movies
fear?
are okay,
Okay.
It's just in real life.
Okay. What is it? Guilt?
I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like I have this distinct memory in middle school that has stuck with me, and it could be related to this memory. But when I was in middle school, there was a science class, and the teacher had all these aquariums all over, surrounding the class with animals in it, which was cool and fun.
Living,
yeah. And there was one with these two snakes in it, and I remember distinctly during the breaks we could take them out and play with them, and I reached into the one with the two snakes in it. I pulled the snake out, and it was half a snake. And it sent this and I literally threw it and screamed and ran off. And it sent this intense.
It was dead, I'm assuming?
It was half a snake. Yeah, dead.
Okay.
Dead, yeah. It wasn't like just the tail.
Right, it wasn't like one of these snakes where they'd gotten bitten off. It was in mid-regeneration.
No. It was somebody, either the other snake tore it in half, or somebody came and just chopped the snake in half. And it was so traumatic for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, truly traumatic. And ever since then, it's kind of like whenever
Did people laugh, or it was just weirded out?
Well, I screamed out loud. So everyone's like, what happened?
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And then the teacher came, and I don't remember exactly what happened after that. But
how was your scream? Because you know what I mean? You never know what your scream's going to be like. Was it high-pitched? Had your voice changed? Because men will shout, but just shrieking is a rare one.
My guess, I don't remember, but my guess is it was extremely high pitched.
Right. Great.
There might have been some of this,
Right.
like it was, I mean, I was terrified. And
Yes.
now every time I see like a dead squirrel or something, that same level of terror hits me. I don't know where it stems from.
I mean, it's probably from the snake.
Yeah.
It's very jarring.
But
And
it feels like a deeper thing that I haven't like dealt with because it is such an intense, like kind of.
as you're saying this, I'm remembering my dream last night, and I got bit by a cobra.
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be.
It was scary.
Yeah.
In the dream.
Yeah.
I understand your fear of dead. I mean, it's also like an evolutionary fear. It's like it was never, unless they were edible. Which most probably weren't. If there's a certain amount of decay, it's useless.
But didn't you always have those friends who
liked
just like playing with a cat's head, and you're just like, oh my God, you're crazy. You know what?
Yeah,
I had those friends, and I just marvel at and other friends who see a dead cat and think like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm just like 10 blocks down running away.
I gotta think I'm on your side.
Okay.
I think you're doing the right thing there.
Oh, okay.
Mourning.
Yeah.
Mourning.
Yeah.
You overdo it?
No, it's just something I'm in the middle of right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my dad had passed.
And what is it? What's it like?
It's weird and surreal, and it's surprising. I had never lost someone that close to me,
Yeah.
And at my age, it's like a lot of people lose way more people, but I've been lucky, and to my dad had lung cancer, and to see him deteriorate, I mean, that was jarring because my dad was this strong, stable, deep voiced, workhorse of a man, and to see him lose so much weight, lose his voice, which was like the thing about him, that you remember his voice, to see his voice just kind of wither away, and to be at the hospital and to see this guy who was just such a stable presence, I remember sitting with him at the hospital, and he reached out, and I had never held my dad's hand since I was a toddler, and reaching out and holding his hand, it just felt so weird, but also like beautiful, but also awkward, and it just felt like this mix of conflicting like feelings.
What precipitated it? Was it especially like it felt like the end, or he realized something, or you were just there? And
well, at that point he couldn't really talk that much, but it was just he would reach out, and I would just hold his hand, and we knew his time was up, and that it was coming, but my dad just kept living, so like we thought he was going to pass away, way before he actually did. He just kept living, and
in the hospital,
in the bed,
in
the bed,
You're talking about a month, a few,
like weeks, weeks,
and you kept having to hold his hand. But was it? Do you think he thought he was close, and then he held your hand, and it
I think so. Yeah.
Did he look over at you? Did he?
Yeah. I mean, he through up until like the very close to the end, he was always like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine, even though clearly he wasn't fine. Don't worry about me. Don't worry. That was my dad. And we knew his time was up, and but he was always just like, even when he couldn't talk, he'd always like give a thumbs up. Like I'm good. And it was like clearly he wasn't good. And then once it really kind of started feeling like he was gonna go. It was, I think, he knew it, and we all knew it.
Yeah.
And it was really the whole thing was so surreal, and still surreal for me. Like I
like the passage of a pillar.
Yeah, and also expecting to feel more sadness and grief right afterwards, but then not feeling it initially.
Yeah.
Like
it's, as I say, I'm sure you've read it's non-linear.
Yeah. And
so I'm sure you were like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, totally. And then I was this was like a couple weeks later, I was in New York, walking back to my hotel, and at this point I hadn't really cried even, and I walk past this bodega, and inside there's this elderly Asian man who worked at this bodega, just kind of sitting there, and the bodega was empty, and just sitting there kind of staring into nowhere. And it made me think of my dad, because my dad had a 1-hour photo business. It was always just him in that store, and I felt like this guy is so lonely, and it made me think, oh my gosh, my dad was probably like so lonely,
Most of his life, you mean?
At least when he was working at that store, and even afterwards, when because again, he didn't like hang out with his friends all the time. He didn't like he didn't like go out and have fun, so, and then I just broke down just by myself, and and to this day it's just like everything is so
it
so
sounds
strange.
Like part of what you're saying is like you wish you could, it's like you wish you could know, you could have had that moment of realization about how lonely he must have been before he died.
Yeah.
And it's you can't.
Yeah. And there was a lot of guilt, in terms of what could I have done to be a better son? What could I have done to just be there more, And I think, at a certain stage in my adult life, like not even early, when I was pursuing this career and my parents were not supportive, so I would just I would not share anything with them, I was just doing it, And I think that, part of me was like, oh man, I wish I would have shared more with him,
with that in mind, if you feel like you were a derelict son or whatever in that way, what are your expectations of your kids? Because my bet is you're not thinking about your kids as like what they're not doing for you.
No, and I mean, I have one daughter, and she's on the autism spectrum, and there's none of, I have no, I just want her to be happy.
Well, maybe your dad thought you were autistic.
That's a good possibility.
But do you know what I mean? Like, there is that thing of like immigrant parents come to America and they make their lives better for their kids, and then they make the kids feel bad about it the whole time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My guess is your dad probably didn't have sky high expectations for how you were supposed to treat him.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And he got to see a good amount of your success.
Yeah.
And was he impressed?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was able, I like, because he showed his love to us by like providing us with like things, like my kind of instinctual response once I found success was to shower him with things, buy him a car.
Yeah.
Pay off the mortgage. Pay off their house, basically. Get him a nice Rolex, stuff like that, and he...
It's funny, the stuff he died with was all shit you gave him.
No, totally. Now
you get it back. Resale's good.
That's right.
Rolex,
Yeah.
Real nice resale. During the pandemic,
so it's like those things that like, I know ultimately he didn't, because he had to, he chose not to value those things, but once I gave him, just a few things, he like coveted them.
I'm betting he coveted them because you gave them to him.
Yeah. But he also like, really likes
Rolexes are great.
Yeah.
You can floss, you can fucking rub in people's face.
Yeah, the club,
not like you're looking for dispensation, but That seems like you did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think in some ways, but a part of me also, like, I think it's just surreal and complicated, and
also
working it out.
You want to talk about you don't love dead. I mean, death is not great for anybody.
Yeah,
and the experience of parental relationships are so complicated.
Yeah,
and so rich, and then adding that to it.
Yeah,
it's just it's a lot.
Yeah,
and it makes you think about your own mortality.
Totally.
And like your purpose, and
totally.
It's like it's an everything bagel.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the most loaded. I feel like people bring up the death of a parent as it's got to be in the top 3 most significant things that happen to you in the world, other than death of a parent, having a kid, and threatening to kill Kim Jong-un, and then him getting upset.
That's
about
a big one. Yeah,
it's huge for most people.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that experience is going to change me in some fundamental way, but I don't know how or in what way. I just because I'm going through it. You know?
And and you said there's some kind of weird about it, or it's uncomfortable.
It's very it's just very strange and surreal, and it almost sometimes feels like a dream, like a weird dream,
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
I think it's a totally natural reaction.
Yeah.
I'm sure it doesn't make it any easier, but that can be some comfort of like, fuck, it's not uncommon.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing abnormal about it, but it's still.
Yeah. Also, he was again like such a kind of simple. He led such a simple life, and he was like, I don't want a funeral. Don't give me a funeral, And I think a part of me really wanted to eulogize him, but he really didn't want a funeral,
Yeah.
And so a part of me wants to express just how incredible he was, and how incredible his life was.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but you have the floor. I'm serious. Like, if you want to, it's not a huge podcast. People listen to it. Like, what was he like?
Well, I mean, he was, again, such a steady, strong presence, and such a good person, he was very much about just, being good to the people around you, keeping your world small.
Yeah.
And really cherishing that world, and he had this remarkable life. He immigrated from Korea to lived in San Francisco, was a busboy at a French restaurant. The boss loved him so much, he helped him go to France, to go to university in France, learned French. Came back to LA and back to Korea, met my mom, came back with my mom, and just, English was his third language.
Yeah.
And he was just always loved also everywhere he went. It's like everywhere he worked, people loved him, and even when he was at the souvenir shop, I would go there, and everyone in that vicinity would tell me how much they loved my dad.
Yeah.
And how and I would never see this side of my dad. I never saw the wanderlust of my dad. I never saw the how he interacted with people around him at work, and I only saw the kind of the just the stoic dad, and but he there was something I think a bit magical about him, and but at the same time, it was like he kept everything so simple, He didn't have hardly any possessions, He was very much a minimalist, and I don't know if it was, my guess is a lot of it was not by choice. It was because, you know, he
moving around a lot.
Moving around, but also, you know, the 1 Hour Photo Store wasn't successful. You know, it was he bought it during the dawn of the digital age. You know, when people, yeah. And but he just kept at it and kept working and worked hard and you know, it was just like a good person who didn't harm anybody, you know. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You seem like a great dude.
Oh, thanks,
from what I know of you.
Thanks, Neal. Appreciate it, man.